Welcome to today's Postgrad Insight session, which is brought to you by the University of Southampton. Now, we've got a specific English and creative writing webinar for you today, which is going to take you through the next 45 minutes, outlining exactly what it is that you can study whilst at Southampton, doing this course specifically, and in the particulars that you'll need to focus on. Before I take you any further, just a reminder, this is a live session. If you have any questions, any concerns, please put it in the chat facility. We do have a Q&A at the end of this session, so if you've got any questions, the Q&A at the top or the bottom of your screen is the one to click. At this stage, I'd like to hand you over to Toby. He's going to be taking you through the next 10 to 15 minutes and then handing over to other people as we go along. Toby, over to you, and I will see you for the Q&A towards the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Hello and welcome wherever you are, whatever time of day it is or night. Thank you for your interest in Southampton in English and creative writing. I'm going to be talking about creative writing MA at Southampton. Then we're going to hear from Christopher Hayes, who's one of our graduating students. And finally, Kevin Brazil to talk more about English. And then there'll be a Q&A for all of us at the end. If you'd like to say hello in the chat, please do. I'm going to ask a few questions as we go along. There can be a yes or no answer for you to type in. And I'm also going to be doing a creative writing exercise, a quick one to get you going on writing a story. So if we could see the first slide, Kevin, this is who we are. Put up a link for applying at the end, and this is who I am. I thought I'd put up a few of our works myself and my colleagues in creative writing. This is a little backstory about me. 10 years ago, I wrote a comic called Dead Boy Detectives, based on Neil Gaiman's Sandman series, and it's just become a Netflix series. And some of my characters in that picture on the left there have made it onto the screen, onto Netflix. And so that's one thing I've been doing. I've also written novels. I've also written short stories, and my cat has decided to join us. Hello. It's back to the old days of lockdown. So my main focus these days is teaching at Southampton, and as are my colleagues. If we could see the next slide. So we have Philip Hoare, who is a very, very established writer of non-fiction. He's a man obsessed with the sea and with whales. He's frequently written about that, but he's very involved with the teaching on the department, teaching narrative non-fiction. A new member of staff, Christopher Adams, who joined us last year, teaches script writing and screenwriting. This is one of his stage plays, Tumulus. Carol Burns, who was the former head of creative writing, novel came out recently, a fantastic novel about gun violence in America called The Same Country. And this is a forthcoming novel by Rebecca Smith called Conversations with an Octopus, which is a crime novel. So the creative writing MA at Southampton is taught by practitioners who are publishing, who are involved with themselves, with their own writing, and through their writing, out of their writing comes their teaching. If we could look at the next slide. So I thought I'd break down the structure of the MA quite simply. We have a core module, which we call the Creative Skills Workshop. That's based on a group probably of around 12, meeting once a week to give feedback to one another on writing that they've handed in the weekend before. There's time for the tutor to do some teaching in that too, technical things to give you practical advice on developing your own writing and your own writing skills. There are 4 option modules here: script writing, writing for children and young adults, the art and craft of fiction, and narrative non-fiction. By the time you finish the creative writing MA, you will have covered through those modules a wide range of creative writing genres. So you will have done short stories, or perhaps started working on a novel. You'll have looked at narrative non-fiction, which goes all the way from autobiography and memoir to formal biography to experimental narrative non-fiction, autofiction. You'll have looked at writing for younger readers. Writing for children and young adults looks at writing for middle years readers, for young adult readers. That's Smith, who's written in that genre extensively. Then the art of craft and fiction is to back up your literary fiction, your reading, and your writing within those forms. A narrative, and script writing covers both stage and screenwriting, and that's with Christopher. If we could look at the next one now. So one of the core texts that I've used to teach in the last couple of years is A Swim in the Pond in the Rain, which is a book about Russian short story writers, but is a great model of how reading closely can lead into writing better, writing in a more sophisticated way. And this is a quote that I think is key. I've worked with so many wildly talented young writers over the years that I feel qualified to say that there are two things writers who go on to publish from those who don't. First, a willingness to revise, to rewrite their own writing, to change it. Second, the extent to which the writer has learned to make causality. So causality is this event causing that event, something that happens, making something else happen. So without the first thing, the second thing couldn't happen. Now that sounds very simple, but George insists that going back and back to this and improving that is the way to write better stories. So we're going to do a quick writing exercise now, and we're going to start on a story. And this is the kind of thing that we will be doing within one of the earlier workshops to get you going in the writing. So if we have the next slide, this I hope is to help you start writing a story when you don't think you have a story to write. Perhaps you could answer a quick question for me. Have you done any creative writing in the last, have you done any at all? Let's see how many of you come up with that, because that will be interesting to see. So in order to begin with this one, we're going to need some ingredients for our story. So I'd like you to get a piece of paper to the side or to type on your screen. And I'd like you to write down the numbers 1 to 3. And next to that, I'd like you to write down the names of people who could be in your story, not real people, make up story, make up characters for the story. So for example, you could have, oh great, so 62 people have done creative writing, 38% haven't. And have you done any in the last month? Let's see how many of those 62% have done any creative writing in the last month, because the end of this, hopefully, it will be 100%. So I'll give you a moment to do that. Have you done any creative writing in the last month? Okay, so you need to have written down or typed up 3 names of characters. So you could put them as Toby, Kevin, and Christopher, but you might think of something else. Okay, 30%. So you've obviously been pretty busy. Well, let's do some writing now. Beneath your 3 characters, I'd like you to write down the names of 2 places in the world, one close to you and one far away. So with me, it will be London. I'm in London at the moment, not Southampton. And somewhere far away could be Brazil, somewhere like that. I wonder why I thought of Brazil. Next, I'd like you to write down below that 2 objects that you could pick up and carry. So one of them might be a phone, one of them might be something that would only be in a very small part of the world. Some fish and chips here. And the last thing I'd like you to write down 2 mood words, 2 words that might describe a kind of mood for a story. So for example, have scary, or you could have funny. And I'd like those mood words to be slightly different from one another. So don't just say scary and terrifying. Okay, so I hope you've now got 3 characters, 2 places, 2 objects, and 2 mood words. I'd like you now to put some of those in the chat. So let's have the name of some of your characters. If you could put them in the chat, you don't have to put all 3, but let's have a look at what you've come up with, and then we can start from there. If none go in the chat, I'm going to have to make up some names myself. All right, we've got some from AS. Eleanor and Dale. Okay, they're gonna pile in now. So let's take Eleanor from there, and let's take Toy. Let's take Eleanor and Toy. So we've got 2 people, and now we want to start our cause and effect with them. So we're going to need an object. What is the object? What are the 2 objects that you've put? Toy and Eleanor. I have to write them down. Or was the toy the object? Maybe that's not the name. Phone and book. Earphones, bag. Okay, well, let's start with Eleanor and Toy. I'm going with Toy instead as a name instead of a thing. And they've got a bag. What could be a cause and effect that happens between them? Well, if you've got a story, my definition of a story, my best definition of a story, is that a story is about an object that's in the wrong place. If you think about a small story, it could be that, say, someone steals something from someone. In a big story, something like Lord of the Rings, the ring needs to be transported across the world to be put in the right place, which is the Mountain of Doom. It needs to be destroyed. So if we think about cause and effect, we've got Eleanor and Toy, and we have something that could cause a story to start to happen would be that bag being in the wrong place. That would be an opening that would mean that we could move on to something else. So we've got Eleanor and Toy, and they have a bag. What could happen? Well, let's say someone comes along, our 3rd character, I'm going to pick a name at random. Joseph comes along. We don't know anything about Joseph, but Joseph takes the bag. Perhaps he takes the bag by mistake. That's a classic kind of narrative setup. Joseph takes the bag by mistake, and he leaves behind Toy and Eleanor. We've started making a story there, but what we need now is some cause and effect, something to make the next thing happen, and it couldn't have happened if that object had been in the right place. So let's say there's something in the bag that Toy need. What could that something be that someone might need? If you could put it in the chat, what might someone need that was in a bag that they would need perhaps urgently? Great, we've got car keys, gold. Yes, but you probably need something, medicine. Yeah, that's one of the things I was thinking about. So if we've started a story here, we've got 2 people here. One of them's bag is lost, and in that bag is medicine that they need immediately. Say it's an asthma inhaler or something like that. Then we have a problem. We've set something up. We've set up the kind of narrative energy that means where there wasn't a story before, we've now got a reader who's sitting there thinking, Eleanor hasn't got her medicine. She hasn't got her inhaler. How is the next thing going to happen? The reader asking, what's going to happen next? And that's the kind of thing that I would be teaching. That's the kind of exercise, a simple exercise to build up the narrative energy, to build up the momentum. We're getting some other good suggestion here. Keys, phones, money, but gold could be a bigger story. Gold could be the second object. Unless she recovers from her asthma attack, she's not going to get the gold back. Okay, so next, what happens next is Christopher. I'm going to pass on to you, who is a graduating student, one of our really fine students from this year's creative writing MA. Christopher's going to talk for a little bit about his experience on the MA and hopefully fill in a little of how things look from the student side of things. So over to Christopher.
Hi, everyone. So I'm just going to talk about kind of why I took the creative writing MA at Southampton University. I'm Christopher. A bit about my background. I studied undergrad also at Southampton. I did a joint honours English and film. And I took a year out and then came back to do the creative writing MA. So I was initially drawn to Southampton because it has the kind of dual campus city location, which is great because you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get the kind of campus setting in the city. There's also plenty of flexible options for study. So in our cohort, we had someone studying part-time, and then there's kind of plenty of support and understanding from staff, whatever your situation is. I also was really drawn to the kind of green spaces around Southampton because there are plenty to see and spend time in, which is all kind of rich inspiration for writing. So that photo on the right is a photo that I took of Riverside Park sometime last year. I also, I really wanted to kind of build a body of work that I could then start to think about, using to further my writing after the course and kind of finish with a somewhat completed piece of work. And also, learn about the publishing and writing industry and kind of how to perhaps further a career based on writing after the fact. There's also kind of brilliant facilities and on campus and nearby. So, we have Hartley Library, which is the main library on campus, which has anything you need. They'll always have the text that we are required to read for the course. And then there's places like October Books in Portswood, which is very nearby. And they always have, events and that sort of thing. So if you could go to the next slide, please, Kevin. So in terms of what I most enjoy about the course, so you meet plenty of like-minded people who are passionate about writing. Mostly other people on the course with you, people from loads of different cultures and backgrounds, and it's great to kind of experience those people's writing and get to read work by a variety of people, and then you get a variety of different opinions and views on your own writing, which is fantastic. And then, also lots of inspiring professionals and the staff that we have, and kind of local authors, they do talks and that sort of thing. You also get loads of chances to expand your repertoire of skills. So particularly in terms of, for me, it was the writing for children module and the narrative nonfiction module, which are optional, but I really do recommend taking them if you do end up studying, because I wouldn't have ever thought to write for kids, but it really I really discovered that it was something that was really rewarding, and I definitely wouldn't have tried it otherwise. So that was great. You also kind of get to pursue your specific interests and passions through your writing, which is fantastic. So I'm a big horror enjoyer, and I, very much I wrote a lot of horror. And you kind of can do whatever you like. You can write whatever stories you like, so you can kind of pursue your interests that way. We also have fantastic field trips. So the photos on the right there, the one on the left is from our field trip to Netley, to what's left of the field hospital there. And they have a big bell tower, and I actually got to ring the bell tower. And I actually saw a peregrine falcon there, which was amazing. And then the one on the right is from the National Oceanography Centre, which we have in Southampton. We got a tour around the facility, and they have the research aquarium there, which is what the photo is of. And they have loads of specimens in jars in the Discovery collection, which we got to see. And then obviously these trips inspire loads of amazing writing. So yeah, the local area is rich with inspiration for writing. And then, as Toby said, often it's kind of, around 12 people in these workshops. So it's quite a intimate learning environment. If you could go to the next slide, please, Karen. So how has the course helped me to kind of develop my skills? Well, the workshops that Toby was talking about are a great chance and a great opportunity to kind of get feedback on your work and your writing style, where you get a chance to get a massive variety of opinions on your work, and you get to kind of identify what's working and what isn't working. And then again, as Toby pointed out, we have a playwright, we have published authors, we have columnists, we have all of these amazing members of staff that you get to learn from and, kind of pick their brain a bit, which is fantastic. They regularly hold the Writers in Conversation event, which is where they get authors and local authors to come in and talk to you, and you also get to kind of pose questions to them, which is fantastic. A huge thing for me as well was learning to write to deadlines because you have to learn when to write even when you're not in the mood, which is such a useful skill if you're kind of trying to pursue a career in writing. And then there's plenty of kind of one-to-one tutorials and guidance, which is again fantastic because we have so many experienced professionals on the staff, and really close examination of your work. And then as well, which is really useful, we have sessions on publishing and agents and freelancing, which if you are looking to pursue a career after the course, is incredibly useful. So in terms of my own future career plans, I am just finishing the course. I'm writing my dissertation currently. And then after that, I'm hoping to try and get published. I want to potentially try my hand at freelancing, but there's lots of opportunities that I have gotten through the course that I wouldn't have otherwise. So I'm mostly going to kind of try and continue to immerse myself in nature and continue writing, which is the main thing. So I hope that was useful. Thank you, everybody.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Brazil, and I am the director of MA degrees at Southampton. So that means I'm in charge of the master's programs and in charge of all the administrative side of things. And that's why I'm going to now talk to you about what it would be like to study at Southampton more generally. So we've seen what the course is like. We've seen what it's like to be a student. Now I'm just going to give you a picture of what it would like to be in Southampton itself. So Southampton University is, I guess if you don't know, it's located on the south coast of England, just about an hour, 15 minutes south of London. Medium-sized city, about 200,000 by the sea, which is always very nice. The University of Southampton, which the history of it goes back to the 19th century in the Hartley Institute, is today one of the top 100 universities in the QS World University Rankings, which is kind of like the main university ranking system globally. Southampton was a founding member of the Russell Group. So the Russell Group is a sort of alliance of maybe 24, I think, universities in the UK who have committed themselves to being leading research universities. So that means that these are universities who support their staff to conduct world-leading research, or in the more creative sphere, to produce world-leading literature, art, music, and so on. So it's kind of a credential or a mark of ambition among British universities to be in the Russell Group. So that's the kind of university you would be coming to at Southampton. Last year it was ranked 17th best university according to the Sunday Times Good University Guide. And it was a top 10 university targeted by the largest number of top graduate employers. So, you know, across the university, that would include banks, law firms, accountancy, and so on. But in our area, creative writing and indeed English, these are things like publishers, media companies, and so on. So that's kind of facts and figures. Both as a department and as a university, we are very committed to putting our students at the center of our university experience. We offer an extensive student support system, particularly for international students, because we understand, you know, it's a big thing to move abroad. It's very exciting. I moved abroad for university, so I sort of get it. So you'll be offered support for your well-being, like things like your mental health. They'll give you advice on finances, visa support. And there's a student hub in which you can meet fellow students, again, particularly international students, who'll be able to offer you support and advice on their experience as well. There are drop-in sessions, there's live online chat. You can speak to people in person, or you can speak to people over the phone and email. And if you're in the English department, you can speak to me. You know, you're not just going to meet your tutors that Toby has outlined. You'll have your support staff within the English department as well, who you'll get to know and can also support you. Because we really like our students. They're all very interesting. The point, you know, of any MA is to educate yourself and in the sphere of creative writing to develop your creative writing practice, but it is also about developing your career. And so as a student at Southampton, we have a range of support in place to help you make the next step for your career journey after you graduate. So say you were to do an MA, you'd be here for a year. Throughout that year, you can go to employment sessions run by the Career Service. You can get specific advice from the departments and faculty. I mean, of course, you'll, as Toby has outlined, you'll get a lot of support within your MA, very specific advice about how to develop as a creative writer. But you might want to go into media, publishing, and do all the things that writers do to support themselves while they write. We can't all be, you know, millionaires. So there's a lot of support there that I think would be really useful. There's careers fairs where over 300 employers come to the university. And again, I think for creative writers, there would be things like media companies, marketing companies, things like that. You will be able to be part of the university's career support service after you graduate. You get 5 years of support after you graduate. And I know because we teach a lot of international students at Southampton, there's also advice for managing working while you have an international visa. So any questions you might have about that when you get here, our careers team are able to advise you on that. I guess just to give you a better picture of Southampton, the university. So the university has a number of campuses. I suppose, would it be campi? I don't know, campuses. So the main campus is what's called the Highfield campus, right? And kind of as Christopher was saying, Southampton is a great place to study because it's a campus university in a big city. So by what I mean by that is you have the city centre in Southampton, and then just maybe a 10-minute bus ride, you've got this kind of huge park, the Southampton Common. And within that park, the university is a sort of self-contained campus with, you know, lecture theatres, sports centres, the theatre, the music hall, and most of the accommodation. So it's that really nice balance of sort of being in a distinct campus and university community. You know, you're not just spread out over the city, which can be a bit alienating. But, you know, 10-minute bus journey and you're in a city and you can kind of have that experience too. So the Avenue campus, which is sort of at the bottom of the main campus, is the dedicated campus for the humanities. So the arts and humanities, English, history, music, film, creative writing. So that's another reason why I think it's such a nice, friendly department, because we sort of have our own sort of building where all of our offices are, where all the teaching takes place, overlooking this kind of beautiful park. And I think that really does create this sense of like community among students. You know, you sort of will sort of live in halls and you all sort of study in the same building. You're not scattered around. So it's really easy to meet people, I think. There are other campuses as well, things like the Boulderwood Innovation Campus and the Waterfront Campus. They're to do with, and the hospital are to do with medicine, science, technology. Can't say I know much about those things, but who knows? Maybe you want to come write an amazing sci-fi novel, and you want to get really into technology. You can go there. I guess the final one to emphasize is our Winchester campus. So Winchester is a sort of small town, 10-minute train journey just north of Southampton, and that's where our art school is, right? So there's a sort of dedicated creative arts school in Winchester. And that's actually very relevant to creative writing students, because a lot of our creative writers, you know, might have interests in visual arts, in painting, photography, cinema, and a lot of the artists conversely have an interest in writing. And it's kind of, Winchester is a beautiful city. I don't know how many people know about it, but it was the first capital of England back in the medieval times, and it has this beautiful sort of medieval cathedral. And it's kind of this really nice place just to kind of go and, you know, go to an event in the art school and then come back to the city 10 minutes later. So there's a lot of different kind of things you will be able to experience if you come to the city itself. So as I said, the city is on the south coast of England by the sea. As Christopher was saying, it's a very green city. It's built around this beautiful common. That's what the university overlooks. So this first photo here, that's what we see when we look out the window from our classrooms and some of our offices. And, you know, if you're lucky, we'll teach a class there. I taught a class among the trees. Didn't get a lot done, but it was very nice. There's sort of parks like the Riverside Park running through the city. There's museums that kind of will tell you a lot about the city's history, particularly its history as a port city. The city center itself has shopping, cinema, art galleries, all the kind of stuff you would need. Unless you're a millionaire, you won't be living in the beautiful high-rise apartments above the Ocean Village and have a yacht, but you know. But you don't have to actually have a yacht to experience sailing in Southampton, because one of the things that I really like about it is that it's just north of the Isle of Wight. So the Isle of Wight is this beautiful island. It's just half an hour away on the ferry, which is really cheap. And you can take day trips out to this island, which has all these beautiful like sailing villages. It's where Queen Victoria had her holiday home. I don't know if you're into history, but I find that very fascinating. So you can kind of get a sense of living by the sea and sailing in boats and walking on this kind of beautiful island, which is very well preserved at the weekends. Or you can go out clubbing, but you know, you'll probably be all inspired to do your writing instead. And then, you know, one of I think the really nice things about Southampton is it's this balance of being, you know, it's a big city. So you do have, you know, nightlife, restaurants, all these things, but it's not so alienating as a massive city of, you know, London or New York, where it's kind of, you know, it can be a bit lonely. And the city is really well placed among kind of the English countryside. So it's in the county of Hampshire, which famously was where Southampton's most famous literary figure, Jane Austen, is from. So there's so many kind of day trips you can do to various places she lived. The university actually owns a home she used to live in that's now a sort of dedicated library of women's writing. So if you're a Jane Austen fan, it's a nice place to live. To the west of Southampton is the New Forest and Wessex, which for literary fans is the terrain of Thomas Hardy, another novelist. So, you know, if you're going to come to England for a year or two or maybe longer, it's a really great city to be based in, to experience both your education, but also, you know, the beautiful English countryside. Also, it's very pretty. As a university, I think we're very proud of our staff and our students. You know, our staff are leading sort of thinkers and writers in English, in English literary studies. They write on everything from psychoanalysis to literature and science. And our creative writers, as you've seen, as Toby has summarized, work in everything from film, TV, poetry, nonfiction, novels. Toby's very modest. Toby has published 10, 12 novels. So all of these things, I guess, are sort of indicators of how good our research is. That's what we mean by research quality. We are staff who publish books, we conduct research, we give talks on our work around the world, and we think we're sort of a very interesting group of people to be working with. And that, I think, is everything I have to say about Southampton. After this talk, I'll post a link in the chat to the application page. I won't put it up on the slide because it's one of those long web URLs you have to write down, but I'll post the link in the chat. So if you want to find out more just about the application requirements, they're all listed there. You can still apply to this MA. Applications are open for international students until the 29th of June. And if you have any questions at all about the application process, you can email Toby or myself after this meeting. But now I think we'll go to the Q&A, and all three of us are very happy to answer questions. If you just post it in the chat, we can do it, respond to the chat. I think that's the best way to do it, Gareth.
Yes, Kevin, I was going to say thank you very much. I will kind of navigate the Q&A as best as I can now. So look, some questions are coming and we can contextualize a lot of it. So I suppose one of the questions you've kind of answered it already, is do I need a specialized degree in order to study creative writing? There are other subject areas I mentioned, like business and law. If you went and studied one of those courses, that you can study various different subject areas and it would still be okay. You could still get by. What would your recommendation be within creative writing and English, that if you wanted to go and study and become more creative, is there a specific undergrad degree you would recommend? Whether that's Kevin or Tony want to answer that, I'll open it up.
I think that's one for Toby.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, obviously, humanities degrees are probably more directly used, a greater sense that you've been thinking in that area. But the requirement is for a degree of some sort, and then we look at the writing sample and the personal statement, and if the personal statement says, yes, well, I studied biology, but I've always been writing at the same time, and the writing sample is of a high standard, then there wouldn't be any barrier there.
Absolutely. And again, it goes hand in hand with a question that's coming about they're interested in technology and photography, and it's so important to remember there's so many courses without the word creative in it that are creative courses. Obviously, photography being one of them, technology to a certain degree. So which campus would they be on, Kevin? Obviously, you mentioned, I think, the 6 different campuses you've got. In the main, what campus did the creative writing department work from?
So all of your creative writing classes will take place in the Avenue campus, which I don't know, can I go back to it? It's oh, there we go, Avenue campus. So yeah, it's the Avenue campus. It's the old, nice red brick building, basically, which is just connected to the Highfield campus. So the two of those are together. All of your creative writing classes would be there, and all of the staff have their offices there. I think that's important to us to give students a sense of having like a base, a building, a community, and so on. I can't actually see the questions in the chat, but if there are any, if you want to read it out, and I can answer a bit more about science and
you know,
technology.
that was one of the main questions. Another question that's come in is, do you offer taster sessions? Now, creative writing is so unique in terms of, you know, everyone's idea of creativity is very different. Do you open that up to students at even open events, online events, or any other kind of maybe face-to-face events that students could come along and really get a gauge of what you guys are about and whether they're a good fit?
Well, this is the closest that I've done so far. I've been in the post for about a year, so that's something we're looking to do in future. The main thing that we do is conversation events, which are public events, and also we've got a YouTube channel which has recordings of previous ones. So we put on at least 2 of those per year, which is active contemporary writers who come along to talk to our students, but they're also open to the public. My own kind of teaching practice, I have my own YouTube channels, and I have a blog called a writer's diary, which is on. So some of the things I do in my teaching, a lot of the exercises I set, I'm sharing there as well. So if you wanted a taste of my teaching style, you could look at those things. But yeah, we'll be looking to do those in the future, but we haven't got any planned at the moment.
And Kevin, I presume this is a question for you around IELTS and TOEFL international student language requirement courses. What is the level required? Obviously, you're going to be doing English creative writing, but there's so much more to it than that. Is there a standard requirement that you guys ask for, or is it just the normal level that everyone would request?
I need to just double check that. I'm pretty sure it's 6.5.
Yeah.
But as Toby was saying, entry requirements. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 6.5, but oh no, it's 7. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's 7 overall and 6.5 in the various elements. But as Toby was saying, a lot of creative writing, a lot of our applicants are sort of, you know, maybe doing it for the first time, and Toby reads every application and assesses it individually. So it, you know, if you send in an amazing piece of writing, but your score is 6.5 and not 7, there might be consideration. But we would obviously encourage everyone to get the 7, because it will just make things easier.
And Toby, can I ask? Obviously, you read every application, like Kevin just mentioned there. What are you looking for when it comes to a student in terms of their personal statement or their resume, whatever they send over? What can you recommend to students that they put in there? Is it just a simple case of be the best representation of yourself, or are you looking for things on a more intellectual level?
I wouldn't say intellectual. It's mainly to get a sense of a love of reading, and an involvement in writing of some sort. As Christopher said, you know, him writing horror, it's not necessary that we're looking for the new Jane Austen. We might be looking for the new Stephen King, you know, someone who wants to write in a particular genre. That's more than fine. But if someone was saying, I'm interested in writing, and they gave a sense that they weren't already looking at writing, that it wasn't something that was important to them. And it can be as simple as someone just saying, these are the writers that I love, that, you know, this is the kind of thing that I've done in writing, whether that's entering competitions or doing placements, working in a bookshop thing. But alongside that, there's just a general sense of being an interesting person who has stuff that they want to write about. So I don't want to read a personal statement that feels like it's been written by someone who's given advice on how to write a personal statement. I would prefer to feel that it was someone being honest with me about what they're like, because that's what a reader is going to want to end. They're wanting to encounter someone real.
Christopher, can I bring you back on at this point, if you're still there? Because I think it'd be really insightful to hear from you a current student's perspective on just the type of course that it is really, and the kind of place it is to study at. And also as well, having Toby's expertise on hand. I think Kevin mentioned earlier, he's written maybe anywhere between 10 and 15 different novels. That kind of experience and that know-how must really help when it comes to you doing your course.
Yeah, no, it's I mean it's huge because I've kind of always been interested in writing, but it wasn't, I was kind of I didn't realize until doing the course that I was kind of shooting in the dark a little bit, because it's until you meet experienced professionals like Toby and the other members of staff that you kind of get a sense of how to improve your writing. And I mean, for me, I found it very it was really helpful and very kind of eye-opening to be able to understand my own work better and to be able to kind of pursue my creative interests a little bit. So it's very, I mean, I would say also that the other main thing that you get to do that you wouldn't otherwise is the workshopping, because the workshops are just such a kind of it's really invaluable because you get such a broad range of views on your work. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
And are you from the region? Obviously, but guessing you're from the UK, but did you have to relocate? Did you choose Southampton for your master's course? If so, why? It might be that you're from the region and you decided to stay there. And what's it like to live there, if you
Yeah,
did?
so I initially lived near London, but I've always kind of lived out in the countryside, so it was a bit of a change coming to a city. But I initially, I kind of moved into halls, and then because I did my undergrad at Southampton as well, and it was a big change, but it's not like I say, because like for me because I kind of where I came from, having the green spaces was pretty big for me. And I think like Kevin was talking about, Southampton is, it's big enough that there's lots going on, but still small enough that you don't kind of get lost in it. I think it's very easy to, and there's a few little areas like Portswood is one of the areas that's near Highfield and Avenue. And it's kind of, there's plenty going on there. That's where October Books is. And
just from a logistical point of view as well, I'd imagine it's a lot more affordable than the likes of London,
oh yeah,
even in the countryside, it's a lot more affordable. And these things do take, do actually go on in students' minds, because that's a big thing, isn't it?
yeah, definitely. Because it's kind of a bit of a stress when you have to try and figure out the logistics of actually living somewhere. But I know because we've in the cohort, I've made friends with kind of plenty of the other students, and I know a couple of the international students have had difficulties with finding housing. But talking to them, the university have helped them through these kind of issues and helped them find the right places and find affordable housing. And there's you know, lots of different halls options as well, and kind of all across the city, depending on where you want to be. So yeah, I think, you know, there's quite a nice variety of areas for you to choose from, depending on kind of what you're looking for and what price range you're looking for. I mean, I was in Portswood for most of my time.
Excellent. Okay, Christopher, thank you very much. Toby, I'm going to let you kind of have the last say here in terms of the webinar. I'm just conscious of time a little bit. How would you like to wrap things up and speak to the audience? Because obviously there's going to be people watching that will be interested in coming to Southampton. I think you've answered the question about the personal statement, what you're looking for, and Kevin obviously went through the campuses about the English language requirement. How would you like to finish up? Would you like to just kind of point out exactly where you are, your strengths, your positioning, and when your next open events are potentially?
Yeah, well, as Kevin said, you can email us if you have particular questions. I've answered some of the questions directly through chat, but my email address is t.lit@soton.ac.uk, and Kevin will put the application link up. I would say that one of the main things that's concerning everyone at the moment is artificial intelligence and what kind of jobs there are going to be in the future. I'm also very conscious of framing all that we do within a kind of sustainable, a sustainable background, that we're aware of climate crisis. Both those things are things that there are other degrees where they may not be a way of thinking about that. Creative writing is a way of thinking about what can I do that is original, what can I put out in the world that is different, and if AI starts to take some of that space, for example, if there isn't jobs doing standard marketing materials simply because that can be done by machines, then you're looking to move into those spaces or have the originality to do the things that the AI can't do. And creative writing is one of the disciplines that will teach you to do that, give you the space to think about how can I get my message across or someone's message across in a really direct, appealing way, and through the media that we have, through phones and through social media and things like that. So creative writing is a very contemporary subject, and it fits you both for the kind of contemporary world and the future, I say.
Christopher, Toby, Kevin, thank you for your time. Really appreciate all the questions that have been answered. To the viewers, thank you for hanging in there. The Q&A is always engaging. It's always good to hear from different people and different perspectives from all over the globe. If anyone has any questions, like Kevin and Toby have mentioned, Toby's email address is in the chat facility, but they will reach out to you anyway because they're going to have your details after this webinar. But for now, a huge thank you. We look forward to working with you again, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Kevin, do you just want to quickly wrap up things and say a few words?
Yeah, just to say, I've posted the link to the application page in the chat. So if, as we hope, this webinar has made you interested in applying, click that link and that will tell you everything. And I've also posted Toby's Substack, A Writer's Diary. This is where, as he said, he's too modest to post it himself. He talks about the kind of way he teaches. So if you want to get more of a sense of how Toby teaches, click on that link, subscribe to his Substack, and be in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. All the best. Take care, and thank you for taking part.